Welcome, everyone. My name is Jennifer Harris. I'm the president of the America Hometown Laureates, Inc. We are a nonprofit organization who has put together this poetry festival this past week. This is our fifth and final inaugural event for this year. We have had a wonderful time doing it. We've been working with our media partners at PAC TV who have been fabulous, as well as all the poets who have really shown up for this event. And to speak to that point, I have to say some time that I've spent with at least one of the poets early on in the week inspired me to brush up and bring out a haiku that I've written just for today. So, thank you. Entitled Pressure, Haiku by Jennifer C. Harris. Push, pull, stop, go, feel, realization that it's drat rumination. And thank you. And now I'd like to introduce Glenda Richards, who's the wonderful owner of our location here, Books and Sundry. If you'd please come up and read a poem.
Hello, welcome everybody. So I don't write poetry, but I appreciate poetry. So I'm going to read a poem by one of my favorite poets, Maggie Smith, from her work in Goldenrod. And it's called The Hum. It's not a question without the mark. How do we live with trust in a world that will continue to betray us? Hear my voice not lift at the end. How do we trust when we continue to be betrayed? For the first time, I doubt we'll find our way back. But how can we not? See how the terminal mark allows a question to dress as statement and vice versa? Sometimes, if I'm quiet and still, I can hear a small hum inside me, an appliance left running. Years ago, I thought it was coming from my bones. The hum kept me company, and I thought, thank God for bones, for the fidelity of bones. They'll be there until the end and then some. Now what? How to continue? I've started calling the hum the soul. Today, I have to hold my breath to hear it. What question does it keep not asking and not asking? Never changing to pitch, or never changing its pitch. How do I answer? Thank you.
Thank you, Glenda. Glenda is the treasurer of the board of American Hometown Laureates, so we work very closely together. And I have to say, we found like a little niche where we've just written several grants, and we've received at least 3 or 4 from the Massachusetts Cultural Council. We received one from the Town Promotions Grant, and we received one from the Plymouth Cultural Council. So we have our work cut out for us, and we've put in for another festival grant for next year. So thank you, Glenda. And now I am very pleased to announce Marilyn Gove will be our MC today. And please.
Okay, thank you so much. Hey, everyone. How you doing? We're small but mighty today, I think. So we might have an opportunity to get to know each other just a little bit better. Does that sound good to each of you? No, right? Just leave me alone and let me sit here quietly, right? So the first thing I like to do is, as I've grown older, is really express appreciation. So first and foremost, I like to express appreciation to Jennifer Harris, who just spoke to you, in case, like myself, you sometimes have a memory lapse. She was the first individual I met when I purchased a place at Sawyer's Reach, which is in North Plymouth, and told me all about the wonderful Mary O'Neill, who is always hosting, poetry events here as well. And so I want to really thank them both. It's been wonderful to be able to find a poetry community, a place where I can hang my hat. And I'm not 30, I'm not 40, I'm not 50, I'm not 60, I'm actually over 70. And so to have a place to finally hang my hat is so wonderful. And I want to also thank Glenda, who opens up this place, and they just contribute so much. And we've just come through the first poetry festival I think I've attended, and I think it's so wonderful to see some youth here today as well. Not that others here are not youth, but I think they're quite youthful. You know, that was a good save, right? So anyhow, let's introduce our first reader, and that is Miriam O'Neill. Please welcome her.
Hi. The wonderful thing about this place, about Books and Sundry and poetry, is it's like a mutual admiration society. Everybody supports everybody here. So if you haven't read here before and this is your first time, you're in a really good place to do it. I'm going to read a few poems from books I've published, and then I'm going to read a brand new poem, brand spanking new. But first I want to read two poems from this book. We start with What We're Given. And they are poems in which I imagine that I've taken lessons in painting. And because I love Elizabeth Bishop, who was a poet but was also a painter. So this is lesson number 2, on time and desire. In a house on the bluff, a dog's shut in and barking. We can hear him from the beach, between the waves breaking. He thinks he's been left too long. Come back, he repeats, as if his bark will conjure the key in the lock. We can hear his yearning. Then the barking stops, which is not the same as ends. It's just the dog has no fixed calculus for how to get what's wanted. When he remembers his need, he'll start again. He'll ask and ask and ask. And as I was looking at Elizabeth Bishop's artwork, I have a collection of a book of her collected artwork reproduced. I noticed how she dealt with distance, and I thought about the few lessons I ever took, art lessons I ever took, and how distance was determined or created on the page. This is lesson number 3, distance. A white-necked magpie floats overhead. One sense of distance can be achieved by 2 lines drawn diagonally. If, as they move across the page, the space between them diminishes to a thread. This will lead the eye deep into the field, or to the stone walls that frame the groves, or the green shadows where now the magpie mutters like a priest in his confessional. Who does not need forgiveness? The instructor demonstrates how horizontal lines drawn parallel define what's near and what the eye might imagine by bending light. Here, the threshold of my door. There, east of everything, the Adriatic, where an orange smear signals morning. The bream and mackerel boats heading out, their engines putter, blessing the hammered silver day. I follow as she explains how each vertical construction infers sky, raised cross, soaring bird. Any form that climbs above mid-page will raise the eye. The priest bird overhead, clouds above him, empty space filling in around his long, slow glide. I want to see what the bird sees, to float on wood and taffeta, like the locksmith of Sabal. But I'm anchored here, midlife, mid-page. Tomorrow, wind. I should tell you that the locksmith of Sabal, was a real person who took it upon himself to design wings made of wood and taffeta and tried to fly. He was the first European to fly. Real person as opposed to Icarus and his father. So you always learn something. Poetry has a lot to give you. So I'm going to read one more poem. William Carlos Williams went through, everybody knows I Ate the Plums. This is just to say I ate the plums, but there are so many other William Carlos Williams poems. And he had a very difficult last part of his life. And he wrote a very dark poem called Asphodel, that greeny flower, which was a confession to his wife about broken promises. And if you know about Italian cheeses, burrata. Has anybody heard of burrata? Oh, burrata. Anyway, traditionally, it's wrapped in asphodel leaves. And there's something about the promise in that little pocket. The man at the deli counter in Santa Franca shakes his head, no, when I ask for burrata wrapped in asphodel. I can tell he's sorry he can't say yes. He knows that I know what he's being asked. For that soft sack of mozzarella full of creamy curds, strapped and knotted with thin green leaves that smell of spring. Forse a lunedì, ti fermi a lungo, he asks, and now it's my turn to show sadness. Solo sabato. Then, as if in apology, he wraps a slab of salty and firm ricotta solata for me to crumble on my fresh greens. His fingers touching mine as he passes his consolation prize across the counter. His thick brows and mustache twitch as he smiles his sorrow. Mi dispiace. And I smile back. Non fa niente. La promessa volta, I respond, which sounds like I am making a promise to return, which is the promise I would like to make. Thank you.
You know what I love about Miriam's reading? I love how lyrical her voice is. Do you hear it when she reads? It lulls me. Reading poetry is so important how you read it. It lulls me and the words just roll in. And it's just so comforting. So I just want to share that. Because reading and learning how to read your poetry is not such an easy thing. And it takes practice and it takes time. So thank you, Miriam. Our next reader I met just as she entered this shop, and I went to assist her at the meter with her credit card so she could pay, and we got there just in time because the traffic lady, I don't know what you call them down here, but she was all in blue with her little digital thing, and she was ready to write up what would have been a ticket, but she was gracious enough to sort of forego that. So she paid, and we're here now. So please welcome, I think it's her first time here. Is that right, Louise? Louise Vieira. Thank you.
Yeah. These are three poems about nostalgia, about going back, and there are three different voices. So the first one, my father's people were from the Azores, San Miguel. The first one is called saudade. Saudade is a Portuguese term. It's not definable, but it's longing, melancholia, and many languages have a word for this. Saudade. On feast days, my aunt carried the enamel pot like a sacred offering, a severed head, an echo from the mouths of caves, and gave to my father, an unholy man, the blood sausage, black with the terror of red. My father rarely spoke. Once he mumbled to the television, they should never dress those bears up and make them act. Another time, while gnawing overcooked steak, mothers chewed their baby's food. When he was 5, he returned to the island with my grandmother, where she bore her 3rd child, my aunt, the green-eyed Adelina. He denied any memory, but always loved the sweetness of pineapples. The blood sausage was his. My mother cooked the food from her parents, lightly salty broths, delicate noodles drying on the wooden backs of brooms, and chickens hanging like coats from the cellar pipes. And so alone my father warmed the horrid black coil, stuffed with rice bound by blood. He broke the bread, closed his eyes, tilted his head, taming the wild beast of slaughter, savoring the camaraderie and the sugary sunlight of pineapples. The saudade of food, the communion breakfast, the Seder plate, the Last Supper, the broken bread, the bloodied wine, and on the woven cloth of nostalgia, the far scent of island pineapples. The second one is in the same vein of remembering, and it's called By Hand, and it's for Eliana, my granddaughter. First, I remember the mud pies, my tin pail riveted with rust and flake, and the dented shovel, no longer red, to mix the batter, water, and sand. If you tunnel deep into the dirt, bands of orange clay, fine and buttery. My pies were exquisite discs, molded by hand, just enough water to make the dirt stick, to form and reform perfect patties. My hands were new then, my nails ridged with brown, scrubbed to a quick before Sunday. This was art in the first form, pure and primal, earth in hand. Now I have moved on. Needles and hooks, threads and yarn, linen, muslin, cotton, silk, burlap. The colors, oh, the colors, subtle and blatant, shouting and whispering, screaming limes and silent mauves, all by hand. Rugs, caps, blankets, flowered hankies and tiny looped pouches, worked with waxed linen thread for the first lost tooth. I believe our spirits exist through the tips of our fingers, a tapestry of expression, of myth and history, place and person and heart, only by hand. But for the mud pies, oh, the delicious, perfect mud pies, there would be no first stitch. My child, remember this story, and when my arms can no longer warm you, wrap this blanket about your shoulders, and I will be close. I will hold your hand. And then the last one is just a very short poem, and it's called Homesick. Send a pebble from the path. Do not wash the dirt from its cracks. I want to roll its grit in my finger's print. Send me the forest, send me the field. Send me a nest with tails of worsted. Send an ash leaf I can press to my cheek.
There was so much fantastic detail in those poems, don't you think? I'm feeling a little hungry, too, because I have a sense she makes really good pies, and not just mud pies. So thank you so much, Louise. Last night, I didn't personally meet our next reader, but he read at the Plymouth Center for the Arts, and I was there and read as well. A beautiful, historic venue, a great audience, and some yummy snacks. Yes, always chocolate chip cookies, which, I'll be your good friend. So let's welcome John Hogerson.
Thank you, Marilyn. Before I begin, I want to do what I've done at each of the venues, which is commend the hometown poet laureates, Jennifer Harris, Miriam O'Neill, for their work in getting this poetry festival off the ground. It's been a blast, and I'm looking forward to the second Plymouth Poetry Festival in 2024. Also, kudos to PAC TV. So I'm going to read 4 short poems. The first 2 come from my most recent book, Convictions of the Heart. The first half of that book are poems that either are about or that I wrote on the Greek island of Hydra. And the first poem is called Pangyri. Pangyri is a Greek word meaning festival or celebration. And most of the populated Greek islands in the summer, not always in the same month or the same date, but most of them have in the summer some kind of local celebration or festival. And I was, during the month of June one year when I was there on the island of Hydra, I did participate in that celebration, and this poem comes about as a result of some of my observations of the people that were there. Pangyri. At sunset, lights lace the harbor. Men and women stroll the waterfront eating ice cream cones, broken hearts hidden among dissolving firework flashes, broken hearts elsewhere forgotten on this night of laughter without tears. The second poem is a little bit, I'm setting up, actually, by reading this poem, I'm setting up reading the third poem, which I did not write. But you'll see the juxtaposition, I think. This poem is called The Tender Thief. I remember what you whispered in my ear the morning when you left. I have your heart. You can keep your soul, for I won't leave a man bereft of his dizzy dreams or his crazy schemes or what was slyly said during tender scenes played out beneath the covers of his bed. As I said, in juxtaposition to the theme that's in that poem, I want to continue an unofficial tribute that Miriam O'Neill and Jennifer Harris and I have been doing during each of the venues of the festival. And that is William Butler Yeats's birthday is this coming Tuesday, June the 13th, and we've been reading one of our favorite Yeats poems at the different venues. Last night, Jennifer read Politics, and the night before that, I read Politics at the wine bar. Jennifer read it at the art gallery. So today I'm going to read my second favorite W.B. Yeats poem, Brown Penny. I whispered, I am too young, and then I am old enough. Wherefore I threw a penny to find out if I might love. Go and love, young man, if the lady be young and fair. Ah, penny, brown penny, I am looped in the loops of her hair. Oh, love is the crooked thing. There is nobody wise enough to find out all that is in it. For he would be thinking of love till the stars had run away and the shadows had eaten the moon. Ah, penny, brown penny, one cannot begin it too soon. And the last poem I'm going to read is by the late Canadian poet, novelist, songwriter, probably best known for the song Hallelujah, Leonard Cohen. This poem comes from his first volume of poetry called Let Us Compare Mythologies, which was published in 1956 when he was 21 or 22. And it's a very short poem, but to me, it talks about the fragility of love and the fragility of the relationship between lovers. It's simply called Poem. I heard of a man who says words so beautifully that if he only speaks their name, women give themselves to him. If I am dumb beside your body while silence blossoms like tumors on our lips, it is because I hear a man climb stairs and clear his throat outside our door. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Now I get to tell you what I love about John. Yeah. It's a good way. It's good. We might as well be positive and encouraging about one another, right? You know? He just feels so confident to me and so knowledgeable, and I feel like I'm listening to a teacher. So I always, it's only been once or twice now, but I walk away having learned something new. So thank you, John.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, what I'd like to do now is actually introduce a poet that is important to me. You may or may not know her. Her name is Lynn Thompson. She is the Poet Laureate of Los Angeles. I first met Lynn in 2009, which was some years ago, in a venue in San Clemente. I lived in Southern California for about 21 years. I was working there at a university, helping to lay a foundation at a new university. I love students, you know. But she and I became friends, and she's award-winning, and she's written a few books. And I like to read one of her poems if I could. Last Elegy for the Red Dress. And what's interesting about this is that she rewrote this about 3 different times. It appears in 3 different volumes. So this was her final one. Good morning, red dress, heavy with the sweat of love wants to dance, scented with the hopes of shy man, bold man, beg to take me home man, still crinkly, crumbly down the back from the hanker in your hands. Good morning, red dress. Morning, chase me, take me shoes, look like you've been out on the town, like you've been dipped and twirled, dizzied and duped all night long, like you can't hang between sweatsuits and jeans, like you're another kind of gal. Hello and hey there, red dress. Double strand of pearls, faded rose, perfume still clinging to the bodice, the slip, the silk of the sleeve, still moten to my hips, my breast, to the drum of my heart, hem softly pleated to a permanent party. Where you been, red dress, and why have you moved on without me? Yes. It's always been one of my favorite that she's written. And now I'd like to welcome our next reader. That's Kate Jepson.
Hi, I'm going to be reading one of my poems I wrote called She Goes Underestimated. Yeah, sorry. Everywhere I go, I'm underestimated by everyone I know. I wonder what it is. I wonder why. Is it because I'm a girl? I'm a girl living in a sexist world? Or is it because I'm young? I'm only 16, and so many adults have power over me, so my voice doesn't matter as much as the people who are older. I wonder what it is. I wonder why. I'm a strong and independent woman with a powerful voice, yet it's not always heard. But everywhere I go, I keep surprising people with my strengths. I surprise them with all I can do, all I know and say. I surprise them all in every way, because I'm just a girl. I'm just 16. But I'm capable of doing anything, yet they continue to underestimate me. I am strong, I am athletic, I am fast, I'm opinionated, and I am capable of doing anything a guy can do. I am smart and knowledgeable, I have a lot on my mind, I have a lot of opinions, I have a voice, and I will use it. They may not always listen at first, but I always find a way to catch everyone's attention. I always find a way. Anything I do, anything I say, I'm capable in every way. They underestimate me. But after everything I do, after everything I say, their mind is changed, because I am a girl, and I am 16. 2 things they see about me, 2 things that make me me. And I love me, all of me, but what they don't see is all I am capable of. They continue to underestimate me. They treat me differently because I'm a girl. They think I'm weak. They think I can't run as fast as them, or play sports as well as they do. My thoughts and opinions just don't matter as much because I'm 16 and they're adults with power. My voice is loud, but to everyone I'm quiet. They underestimate me. I am unheard and it's absurd. So I keep talking, I keep shouting. I make sure my voice is loud and heard. What I have to say matters regardless of what you all think. I will speak my mind, and I will play sports as good as any man can. So for those out there who take one look at me and think she's just a teenage girl who's not capable of anything, all of you are wrong. You all underestimate me. I will surprise you that. I will surprise you. I promise you that. And when I do, next time you see me, think everything you're going to say through before you say a word. They underestimate me one too many times. I've had enough. Believe me, I'm tough. It's my time to shine. Thank you.
Thank you. It takes great courage to stand up and speak your truth. So thank you, Kate. You're certainly not underestimated here. We hope you come again and again, and that you bring all your friends and your new friends as well. Can you do that? Great, great. You got to get your name on our mailing list so you can get the emails, all right? Well, the next reader is me. I didn't know I would actually be reading today. I did bring one poem. In 2000, I left Boston to take a job in a small township, which is now incorporated as a city, called Aliso Viejo. And it's about 10 or 15 minutes from Laguna Beach. And I went there to help lay the foundation for a new university. And if you're an educator, that becomes a lifelong dream. And it was one of the hardest things I ever did. But I returned in 2021, and I went into an apartment in Concord for a little while. And the landlord was, he was an ill man. He had a chronic illness. And it was really decimating him in many ways. And when we discover we have illness, we all decide to do, or to live with a certain attitude regarding it. And it was interesting because I also have chronic disease, and my attitude was to create as much value as I could in my life until there was no more life. And his was the opposite. I mean, just miserable beyond belief. And I would watch him climb this long driveway, and I decided to write a poem. And then I decided to move. So the title of the poem is The Landlord. Dragging one leg, he zigzags uphill to the mailbox. His workman's boot scrapes the pitted asphalt. One crutch anchors his gnarled body. Faded jeans hang from his thinning frame. Neighbors leave him to his chronic despair. Angered by this, his dreary face reddens like a fistful of beets. He wants friends, but is too busy hoarding headstones, each bearing the name of an injustice he has endured. At the top of the hill, he teeters into a half-turn, pretends he is a strong man, and begins the long slog down. So that is The Landlord. Okay. A little bit of applause is good. That's okay. Okay. So I hope I don't pronounce this particular poet's name incorrectly, but the book is The Hurting Kind, from Ada Limon, who is the Poet Laureate of the United States. And I got this, was given to me through the holiday, and I thought I might read one Or maybe two. Let me see here. Here's a short one titled Sanctuary. Suppose it's easy to slip into another's green skin, bury yourself in leaves, and wait for a breaking open, a breaking out. I have, before, been tricked into believing I could be both an eye and the world. The great eye of the world is both gaze and gloss, to be swallowed by being seen, a dream, to be made whole by being not a witness, but witnessed, which I think is a great compliment to Kate's poem, you know, because she is also asking to be witnessed. We are all asking to be witnessed. So I think it's quite timely, and somehow that just happened sort of mystically in line with your poem, Kate, huh? Pretty good. All right. Let me see. One more. Anticipation. Before I dug the plot in our yard, before we had a yard, when grass only grew between stop signs and garbage cans, when I had one pot for a pepper and one pot for aroma on the fire escape, I was planting my secret seeds inside you, the chrism linen curtains billowing in liquid spring wind, the future deepening in the heat. Okay. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to turn it back over to Jennifer.
Oh, there you go. Well, thank you, everyone. It was a delight. We're going to go ahead and close out unless anyone else is moved to share another poem. But we're going to close out the first inaugural Plymouth Poetry Festival at exactly 4:45. So thank you all for coming, and we plan to see you around.